Transitions occur frequently and are a part of every student's educational experience. Students transition from activity to activity, from classroom to classroom, and from school to school, and for many are often a time of stress and anxiety. Typically, individuals with disabilities encounter multiple transitions throughout their time in school. Transitions from early intervention services to preschool, preschool to elementary school, elementary to middle school to high school, and finally, high school to adulthood. This last process of the school system is often referred to as secondary transition. Prior to 16, the IEP of a student with a disability primarily focuses on the student's educational and functional needs and what services the school will provide to help the student make educational progress. In Illinois, when a student turns 14 and a half, usually around 9th grade or earlier if the IEP team decides that it's necessary, a student's IEP changes to include long-term planning to meet goals for a student's life after high school. Here is a nice visual that overviews the transition planning process. We will overview some of the important components included on this slide to help you gain a better understanding of what services for students with disabilities should look like during the final years of schooling. Transitioning from high school to the adult world can be a challenging time for students, especially those with disabilities, as they enter a world of unfamiliar routines, new environments, and novel experiences. To make these transitions as smooth as possible, the IEP team, with the addition of a few members, including community agencies, assists the students with disabilities in the process of selecting appropriate goals and developing the necessary skills to achieve these goals. Planning for transitions and prepping students with disabilities for those transitions can eliminate some of the difficult aspects of the adjustment. The IDEA defines transition services as coordinating services for students that promote the change from school to post-school. This means that IDEA emphasizes only planning for transitions from high school to vocational education, post-secondary education, adult services, independent living, and community participation. The focus of the IEP, once transition planning is included, is to prepare the student to meet graduation requirements and develop the needed skills to work and be a lifelong learner. Federal law requires the student's IEP to be updated annually and include appropriate measurable post-secondary goals based on the age-appropriate transition assessments related to training, education, employment, and where appropriate, independent living skills. Transition services, including the classes a student will take, referred to as a course of study, to reach his or her goals. A statement that the child has been informed of his or her rights that will transfer at the age of majority. In Illinois, students are recognized as adults at age 18, giving them the right to make their own educational decisions, unless they have a guardian. This is yet another consideration parents have to plan for as their child's 18th birthday. Post-secondary goals are the result of high school. More specifically, they are what the student will achieve after leaving high school. Measurable post-school goals are written for the following areas: education or training, employment, and living. Education includes community college, university, and technical, trade, or vocational school. Training opportunities include vocational or career field training, independent living skill training, apprenticeship, and on-the-job training. Employment options include paid employment. The different types of paid employment are a competitive job, supportive employment, and employment through a sheltered workshop, although I personally think we need to do a better job at providing the first two types of paid employment so that we can avoid sheltered workshops. There are also non-paid employment opportunities, such as volunteering, and one final employment opportunity would be with the military. Post-secondary goals should also address living skills if appropriate to the student. This area would include independent living skills, health and safety, financial security, transportation and mobility, social relationships, recreation and leisure activities, self-advocacy, and futures planning. The transition plan must also include a description of the transition services, including courses of study needed to assist the students in reaching their goals. Course of study is a list of courses or instructional programs of study that the student would need. The course of study should be in the IEP and should align with the student's transition goals. There are two important questions to consider for course of study. Does the post-secondary goal require a certain minimum requirement of courses? For example, what are the school district graduation requirements? Is the student college bound or trade school bound, and what are those requirements? Does a post-secondary goal require or benefit from the successful completion of specific high school classes? For example, a future chef would plan to take and complete all cooking-related courses. A future child care provider would benefit from taking and completing relevant classes in child development and other family and consumer science courses. So, transition services are the coordinated set of activities that focus on improving the academic and functional achievement of the student to facilitate movement from school to post-school. The components of the coordinated set of activities include instruction, related services, community experiences, development of employment and post-school adult living objectives, and daily living skills to help the student meet the post-secondary goals outlined in the transition plan. When a young adult reaches the age of 18 in Illinois, they have truly become an adult in the eyes of the law and have the right to make their own decisions. According to IDEA 2004, at least 1 year before a student reaches the age of 18, the school district must inform the parents and the student of their rights under the federal and state regulations that will transfer from the parent to the student upon turning 18. This means that unless other arrangements have been made by the family, for instance guardianship, the student has the right to make the final decisions about his or her education. How long does an IEP or the Individual Transition Plan or ITP stay in place for a student? Some students may graduate with a regular high school diploma on time, but IDEA allows students with disabilities to continue in school and remain eligible for services until a day before the student's 22nd birthday. So services will continue until then. Students may choose to participate in a graduation ceremony, for instance, if they want to walk with their classmates who are moving on, but will not be awarded a regular high school diploma and will continue to be eligible to receive services outlined in the ITP and IEP until they age out of the school system. Although the formal process of transition planning for life after high school has to start when the student is 14 and a half, it makes sense to begin acquiring the needed skills and identifying possible community supports much earlier. It is important that the students and their parents begin building a vision of the future based on interests and strengths long before the 9th grade. Many students and parents feel like transition sneaks up on them, leaving them unprepared to deal with the new world of adult services, or lack thereof them, and not equipped to make many of the important decisions that are required. Planning early is key. Throughout the ITP process, schools, communities, families, and the student must work creatively and collaboratively. Services exist in every community. We may just have to work hard to identify them and think outside of the box, because in the end, it's improving the lives of individuals with disabilities. The payoff to effective transition teamwork is to see the visions become a reality. Because of the plans and supports that we have put in place, students with disabilities are accessing the community of their choice to achieve their desired employment, learning goals, and enjoying a rich